Our next speaker, I'm probably going to say your last name wrong, so I apologize in advance. Blaine Juchau? No, Juchau? Juchau? Juchau?
Yeah.
All right, Blaine Juchau, and how electric vehicles will save the world.
Good morning. I'm taking a little different approach to convenience, perhaps. One way of looking at this might be the harvesting of personal mobility. The talk that I'd like to give you today is about how to use the high value of personal mobility to cut our greenhouse gas emissions. The provincial goal for 2030 is approximately 33% of our greenhouse gas emissions to be reduced. Over 40% of the average household greenhouse gas emissions in BC, that is the single largest chunk by a large margin, is from our personal mobility, which of course I mean driving our car. Since BC's electricity is largely from carbon-free hydro, if we want to cut our emissions by 40% as opposed to 33%, we just have to switch to electric vehicles. And why not electric vehicles? They're clean, they produce no exhaust to form smog or trigger asthma. They run silently, making our cities quieter. They're very, very simple machines with hundreds of fewer moving parts, which cuts their maintenance and increases their durability. The current range of the ones that are going to be available soon is about 150 kilometers, which is plenty for most families most of the time. And slow charging at home means that you can always leave with a full tank. And the fact that the current cars that you buy today last an average of just 13 years, that means that we could cut our greenhouse gas emissions, we could make very large emission reductions and relatively fast. That is, in the 10 to 20 year time frame as those cars are replaced. So why aren't we driving EVs or electric vehicles now? What barriers are there to the shift? Well, obviously, the first one is the lack of availability of vehicles. But as you've also probably heard, that barrier will change this year with the introduction of the Nissan Leaf and other vehicles that are expected in 2011. But even if those vehicles were in the showrooms today, many of us would resist buying them because of what's called range anxiety. That's the fear that the car will run out of power, either because you've driven too far or you forgot to plug it in. And that, of course, leaves you stranded, waiting for a great time-consuming battery charge. And there's no amount of slow charging points will solve range anxiety because they're slow. And the apartment and strata dwellers often must park their car on the street without access to a plug. However, our communities are spread out, and they've been built upon the freedom provided by the convenience of personal auto. I submit that the critical path to mass market acceptance of electric vehicles is to eliminate range anxiety, most likely by introducing quick charging and making it widely available. There's various high voltage quick charging technologies that are now available, which are comparable to a stop at the gas station in both range and in time. The battery and capacitor designs that are quickly being developed, which expand the EV or the electric vehicle range and shorten those times further. Thus, we can reasonably expect that quick charge convenience will match that of gasoline very soon. So if we want to cut our emissions fast, we must eliminate range anxiety by deploying that quick charging at critical points around the city and between them. To start the process, though, we have to answer a key question. What's the value of quick charge electricity? If a quick charge can allow the electric vehicle driver the same driving convenience as a gasoline car, I suggest that the value of quick charge electricity is approximately the pump price of gasoline for a similar car over the same distance. This is a realistic benchmark since this is what we pay today for our personal mobility. Well, where does that $1 a liter, now $1.10, that we pay for gasoline go? On the left column here, you see a breakdown of the typical dollar that you pay per liter. It goes to various taxes, distribution and marketing, and of course the gasoline itself. If we prize electric mobility in the same way that we pay for gasoline now, we could solve several important problems at once. And here's how. The right column depicts one of the options that we have to allocate the value of mobility. We could, for instance, replace the taxes for roadways and the services that we currently enjoy. We could pay for the distribution and marketing of electric vehicle systems. And we could pay for the electricity at current prices. But there's still a lot left compared to gasoline. That quick charge premium, if you will, could solve several related problems at once. For instance, energy conservation in buildings that are served by cheap, yet clean, hydroelectricity is not economically viable in the private sector. Paybacks for the effort are measured in decades. The quick charge premium, on the other hand, could finance extensive energy efficiency measures, and the precious hydropower that's harvested from that effort can be sold to drivers. New, clean power sources like wind, for instance, they also cannot compete with 6 cents a kilowatt heritage hydro. But the quick charge premium could finance their development, since their new electricity output can be readily sold to drivers at its value to those people. To speed the mass acceptance of electric vehicles further, that quick charge premium could repay buyer incentives such as purchase rebates and keep that electricity always less expensive than gasoline for the same mileage. These choices keep that money that we now spend for gasoline within the local economy. There's several simple policy changes which would spark that process. One is to allow utilities to price electric vehicle quick charge power differently than for fixed customers out of your outlet. And it's a concept that's already being discussed in California. Another is to allow the retailers and the people who are willing to invest their money in that equipment to retail quick charge power to drivers without being classified as a utility. Instead, they should be regulated similar to gas stations. So quick charge power that's deployed to reduce range anxiety will turbocharge the mass acceptance of EVs. This could be the very fastest way to cut our greenhouse gases by some 40%. Thus, quick charge power is inherently more valuable than fixed utilities and should be taken advantage of accordingly. Valuing quick charge electricity for personal mobility, as we do now for gasoline, allows us to solve several difficult problems at once. We can slash transportation greenhouse gas emissions by the mass acceptance of these vehicles. We can fund energy conservation without raising home utility prices. And we can support the rapid expansion of new clean power sources. Thank you.